These are the parts for the clutch system. We have a good part, the pressure plate, and you can see it is not worn out. The clutch disc, we still have enough thickness, 7 mm. The splines are good. We have also another clutch disc, but with worn out splines. New bearing with rubber sealing. This is the cover for the bearing. This part is the lubrication system for this bearing, but we will not use this system to lubricate the bearing, because now we will assemble this motor bearing with the rubber sealing, which does not need to be lubricated because it has the grease inside, and the rubber sealing will keep the grease inside. In the past, here it was a felt sealing, and it was like this, but probably it was not very effective. It was losing the grease, and from time to time you had to grease the bearing. We will assemble the greaser here, but we will not use. This is the inner color of the bearing. Good thread, good part. Also the outer color. This is a shim. And now I have to assemble the bearing inside here on the pressure plate. So now we have the bearing inside, and I have to continue. Now I have to press this inner color, and we have also a shim here. I have used this pipe in order to have a support for the inner race of the bearing, but not in the outer. I have this problem with this protection. It should be fitted here, but as you can see, it is too tall and also too small. I have checked on the Meistermills site, where I have seen this part and bought also, and it is the correct part, but only now I have seen it is not for BMW R35, it is for EMW, the Eisenach Motorenwerke, which is almost the same bike, but not the same. it was copied after BMW, and maybe they have another construction here, another hole, and I cannot use this part. Actually, we don't need this part because we have the rubber sealing, but we wanted to be closer to the original. So as you remember, this shim, it was before soldered here, but because it is not perfectly round, we have made another one, and we will use this one, and I will solder this protection here. I want to show you something. I was intrigued by the lubrication system for the clutch bearing, and I was thinking, when you lubricate the bearing, in the case that you don't have these rubber sealings, how can you protect the clutch disc and the plate disc in order not to have grease on the parts, which are friction parts, and you don't need to have grease on these parts. So I have seen, let me put a light. I have seen that the area of the bearing, this edge in the area of the bearing, it is lower than the surface. You see, I can put this needle between them. This edge of the bearing here, it is lower than the surface of the plate clutch. So that means if you have too much grease and it will go outside, it will be captured by this wall of the plate, and it will be eliminated through the holes. It has two holes, one here and one here. It will be eliminated by the centrifuge force on the back of the plate. So it is a clever way to protect this surface from grease. Simple and effective. So I have put solder on the shim. As you can see, it is fitting nicely. I have to use this welder because it is more powerful than an electric one. We have a lot of metal here, and it is stealing the heat. So I have to continue this way, and it will be soldered and fixed in the plate. So now the plate is ready. As you can see, it is soldered, and I have removed the excess. You can see the mark of removing the excess. I have used a blade and sandpaper. I have removed the excess because you have to keep the plate balanced, and not to have too much solder in one part and less in other. Now I think it is okay, and we have the protection in place. I have assembled the fork for the engaging and disengaging clutch mechanism. Always this mechanism has to move freely. Always grease the mount. You can see this moving without effort. And now I have to assemble the clutch on the engine. Also, this type of clutch, it is not pushing the plate towards the engine, it is pulling. When you pull the clutch, this fork here and here, it is pulling the plate clutch towards the gearbox. Okay, it doesn't have to be too tight, because we have also this locking bolt. I have put Loctite. I'll put some Loctite also on the locking bolt. I will assemble also the greaser, but like I said before, we don't need to grease this bearing. But in order to be complete, we'll put also this greaser. And now we have the plate ready to be assembled. So this clutch have this position with a big core of the spline into the engine. We have the bolt with the spring, so we have to push the spring through this window. After that we push the bolt, and as you can see the bolt is going out through here, but you have to push with a screwdriver from the other side, and we have to put the nut. I will use red Loctite for the nut because the red Loctite is more powerful locking Loctite than the blue one, and I think I will call somebody to help me, because it will be much easier to make the assembly. It is important to put the nut not too tight. After you put all the nut, you make an assembly with the gearbox in order to put the clutch disc in the center. You pull out the gearbox, and after that you can tighten the nut for all the nuts for the bolts on the clutch system. Sorry about that. It seems like I'm able to make the assembly by myself. So we have arrived to the last bolt, but you have to be careful when you put inside every bolt. You have to be sure that the clutch disc is in the center, because if it is not in the center, it will act like a counter plate, and you will not be able to push the bolt. It happens to me twice, and I was not understanding why I cannot push the bolt. but if you keep the clutch in the center of the plate, you can push the bolt easily, and this way you can put the nut. So these are all the bolts. The greaser must be in the lower position because on the gearbox we have a window in this area. Like I said before, we will not use this greaser, but we have to put in the correct position. And now we have to see if we can fit the gearbox. It is okay. As you can see, the clutch is working. I will put the gearbox in one gear. I press the clutch, it should spin. As you can see, I can spin the box. If I release, I cannot spin the gearbox. So that means that the clutch is working just fine. Also, I will try to find a position. I want you to see the plate, how it's going back, not forward. Have to push. Okay, watch carefully the plate. So when you pull the clutch, you also pull the plate of the clutch towards the back of the motorcycle, not in the front like we know on most of the cars, even BMWs, like BMW R35, where you push the plate inside, you are not pulling outside. You see, we are pulling the plate outside. This is the way how it works on BMW R35.